ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So further we are seeing the fortunate child in the womb of his mother who has experienced terrible suffering in the womb and who has come to his senses that I should not be suffering like this. He prays to the Lord even from the womb of his mother. So these prayers are continuing. So here the living entity is praying, Saha aham vasan api vibho Bahu dukkha vasam, that my dear Lord, O Vibho, O the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Saha aham vasan api bahu dukkha vasam, even though I am living in a very terrible condition, because to live in the womb of the mother is to live in a very precarious condition, very terrible condition. So he is saying, although I am living in a very terrible condition, it is better not to come out of the womb of the mother, because there is a great danger awaiting. Moment I take birth, what is going to happen? So he is saying, Garbhan na nirjigmishe bahir andakupe. Outside, this is blind well of materialistic life. Bahir andakupe. What is there outside? If I come out of the womb of my mother, it is a dark well of materialistic life. Many places in Bhagavatam, this dark well is explained, Andakupam is explained. Prabhupada explains this, that sometimes in the jungle, a very deep and dark well becomes covered by some vegetation. So what happens? One cannot make out the difference between the ground and this well. So unknowingly he steps on that and falls inside this well. So he is thinking it is safe to place my feet there, but in reality it is not safe. The moment he puts his leg there, he is immediately inside the well. Now this well, it is very dark, no one can see. no one is able to see that actually we are in this dark well. And it is so deep that it is very difficult to come out of this well. Even if one tries to call out for help, practically no one can hear our cries if we are in a deep and dark well. Very difficult. So, the living entity is saying it is better for me to remain in a very terrible condition. Does not matter. It may be a very terrible condition inside the womb of the mother, but I prefer better to remain here rather than to come out of the womb of my mother. So he is saying, I do not want to depart. Garbhan na nirjigmishe. From the garbha, na nirjigmishe means I do not want to depart. Why you do not want to depart? Bahiranda kupe. If outside I come, it is a dark well of materialistic life. So what happens? Suppose somehow or other you depart from the womb of the mother. Yatra upayatam. If one goes to this deep and dark well or this materialistic life, if one comes out of the womb of the mother, yatra upayatam upasarpati deva maya. My dear Lord, your maya, deva maya, your illusory energy, upasarpati, immediately captures the living entity. Now you can see the difference. When the living entity is inside the womb, he is aware of his precarious condition. Being aware of that precarious condition, he is praying to the Lord. Even though he is undergoing terrible suffering. But the moment he comes out of the womb of the mother, the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord immediately captures the living entity. So what will happen? Not only he forgets his suffering, he forgets that actually he had prayed to the Lord in the womb of the mother. He forgets that Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now we can ourselves ascertain that actually it is better to remain in a terrible condition than to remain in a condition of so-called material happiness where we will forget the Supreme Lord, where we will forget our original position. So, how does Maya attack the living entity? How does Maya cover? In what way does it cover? So there the living entity is saying, Mithya matir. Immediately when Maya captures, false identification begins. False identification. What is the false identification? Mithya matir. Mithya means false. Matir means understanding. So false understanding or false identification with the body immediately begins at the point of birth. So what is going to happen? Somebody may question, okay, does not matter. Even if false identification with the body begins once we take birth. Because now in the womb, when the child is praying, still he is aware that actually I am a living entity, I am placed in the womb of my mother in a very terrible condition, and that is why he is praying to the Lord. But the moment he comes out of the womb of the mother, he is born. Parents are waiting, mother is waiting to feed him, and relatives are waiting, everybody, they are all happy. So immediately Maya covers his knowledge and he forgets everything. So what is going to be the result of that? If one identifies himself falsely with this body, what is going to happen? Mithya matir yad anusamsriti chakrametat. This results in samsriti chakram. Samsriti means birth and death, and chakram means cycle. The moment one identifies himself with the body, then birth and death cycle begins. Again and again he has to take birth, again and again he has to die. See, yesterday I was reading one portion of Srimad Bhagavatam where Narada is relating some very important instructions to King Prachin Barhi. So in the course of their discussion, King Prachin Barhi places a very important query. He asks a very important question. So he says, my dear Narada, all the learned people who are learned in Vedic knowledge, they come to the conclusion that we are going to suffer the reactions of our actions, whatever we do in this life, in the next life. Correct? All of us, especially who are in Hindu culture, Vedic culture, we all know this. Let me not do papa karma, because in the next life I may have to suffer the reactions of whatever I do. So he says that all learned scholars, they are of the conclusion that we suffer the good and bad results of our action of this life. But my question is this: the body with which one performs these good and bad activities, it is going to be finished at the point of death. Correct? This body, let us say for example, with this body, I do some punya karma, I do some papa karma. Now what is going to happen at the point of death? This body is no more. Then how, if there is no continuity, if this body which performed all this action, if this is not there, how in the new body you are going to suffer? You performed bad actions and good actions with this body, then you should suffer in this body only. Why you are going to suffer in the next body? Right? So this was the question placed by King Prachin Barhi. So Narada answers that. Let me see if somebody can identify. Garudaja, what could be the possible reason? Identification continues to remain. Good. Little bit more precise. Amit? Mathuresh? Okay. It's also little near. Good. See, Narada explains that actually we reside in two bodies, gross and subtle. This body, external body, is a gross body, and it is just an instrument to act according to the subtle body. This gross body actions are dependent on your subtle body. It is not independent. So gross body is made up of Panchabhuta, earth, water, air, fire, ether. Bhumir, Apa, Nala, Kham, Vayu. Correct? This is Panchabhuta. But Krishna says there are another three elements. Man, Buddhi, Ahankar. So that is subtle body, Shukshma Sharira. Shukshma Sharira is the root cause of action. So it is the one which actually performs action and which does not die at the point of death. It carries those reactions of those actions which we performed in our past life, and it manifests those reactions in the new body which you are going to get, which is again an instrument. So there is continuity. It is not that continuity is lost. So actions are performed just to give you an example. Suppose one thief goes and murders one person. And if he says, मैंने कुछ नहीं किया, मेरा हाथ ने किया, मेरे चाकू ने किया, मैंने कुछ नहीं किया. Isn't it? It is action of my hand, it is action of that knife. That hand is only an instrument. That knife is only an instrument. You have killed that person, actually. You desired to kill him. So similarly, the root cause of action is the subtle body. So the root cause of suffering also is going to be the subtle body. It may suffer. That manifestation of suffering may come through the gross body. So this is very interesting, very important. So samsriti is going to continue as long as subtle body is not purified. Till the point man, buddhi, ahankar is not completely purified, till it continues papa karma, punya karma in this material world, this samsriti will be there. So that is why this child in the womb of the mother, the living entities pray that better I don't come out, because the moment I am going to come out, this false identification will begin. Now somehow or other I have realized that actually I am not this body. I am in a very terrible condition. I am placed in this body and I am placed in the womb of my mother. But otherwise, I have nothing to do with this body. And in that position, he is praying to the Lord. So, he does not want to come out, because the moment he comes out, false identification will begin. And once false identification begins, then this chakra of samsriti will begin. So it's a very important lesson for all of us, that actually the most important thing in Krishna consciousness is somehow or other to remain Krishna conscious. Whatever circumstances, whether it is dukkha, even if dukkha makes you remember the Supreme Lord, actually it is favorable. And if material happiness makes you forget the Supreme Lord, that is very unfavorable. So, devotee has to understand this. Rather than thinking, Prabhu, tumba tras aagta ide, lot of suffering, Prabhu. Isn't it? Sometimes we feel like that, lot of suffering, either bodily or circumstances in many ways. We should anyway think, what is there? When you are traveling a very long journey, one small part of that journey, if you take little trouble, suppose you are traveling from here continuously from here to Delhi you want to go, and it takes around 2 days by train. Suppose for 4-5 hours you don't get one seat. Will you get down from the train? Will you not think that better let me tolerate little inconveniences, because after all my journey is there and I am going to reach my destination. So one should think, millions of lives I have taken, 84 lakh species of life is there. I have been in so many different conditions. So this body means, this material world means dukhalyam. It is illusory to think we come here to enjoy, but actually it is dukhalyam. That is the meaning of Maya, Prabhupada is explaining. That which is not. We were thinking we are going to enjoy, but it is suffering. So, this is how this materialistic world is. So, if there is little suffering, if the circumstances are bodily or some kind of inconveniences we are facing, but somehow or other if we are able to remember Krishna, then actually there is nothing to be worried about, nothing to be sorry about. This is very important. That is why there is a prayer of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, I think that is Bhakti Vinod Thakur's. Keet Janma, if I take birth even as a worm, but let me be born in favorable circumstances in the house of a devotee, so that I can hear the holy name of the Lord, I can be in that pure circumstances. And he is saying, on the other hand, if you want to give me a birth as a Brahma, where I have to forget you, then better not. You see. This is very essential. Just like in the last class we were discussing that even Devatas, they are also praying to be born as human beings. Why? This body of human being is so designed that there is no terrible suffering and there is no terrible happiness. In the lower planetary systems, in the lower species of life, there is terrible suffering. In the higher planets of life, Swargaloka, there is too much of materialistic comforts and happiness. Both of them are disadvantageous. When one is too much afflicted with suffering, he cannot remember God. When one is too much overpowered with material happiness, he cannot remember God. So human form of life where there is combination of sukha and dukkha actually is very advantageous. We get an opportunity to remember the Lord. So this should be our criteria. to understand whether it is favorable or unfavorable. If with good health, I am having very good health, but I am freaking out, I am not serious about Krishna consciousness, then it is very disadvantageous. Parikshit Maharaj is telling, my dear Lord, it is good. Somehow or other you have come in the form of a curse. Now I have come to my senses. I have only 7 days. Otherwise, if this curse was not there, I would have lightly taken my life and I was, an attached householder. So now I have come to my senses. How long you are going to enjoy? You have only 7 days. So he is thanking the Lord. My dear Lord, thank you very much. You are very affectionate to me. Seeing me so much attached, you have come in the form of a curse of this Brahmana, isn't it? So, this is how we have to judge. It is not by our understanding. So, another important point to understand is that actually Maya is very, very, very strong. Here it is said, the child is saying, you can imagine what was his condition inside the womb. Prabhupada is saying, he was conscious of the Lord. See, I'll read that. Prabhupada is saying here, as long as the child is within the womb of his mother, he is in a very precarious condition of life, but benefit is that he revives pure consciousness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord and prays for deliverance. That is the advantage. So this should be our understanding. Which circumstance, any circumstance, which somehow or other makes you to remember the Supreme Lord is favorable. Any circumstances which externally may be very nice, very good, everything is going well, but you forget the Supreme Lord, it is very unfavorable. And Maya is so strong, that this favorable circumstances, if you leave, you will be captured and finished. So imagine, even if there are little inconveniences among the devotees, isn't it better to stay in favorable circumstances? Somehow or other, even if I don't desire, I have to get up, devotees will ask me, come for program, attend Mangalarati, isn't it? Somehow or other, I will be pushed to remember the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, I am getting prasadam, association of devotees, and Prabhupada's transcendental program. This is not something, this is very, very rare, we should understand. Human form of life is very rare, and then over and above that, somebody to be directed to Krishna consciousness is very, very, very rare. So we should understand, somehow or other, I am in a position where I can remember the Lord. Let me not commit suicide, spiritual suicide, by leaving the association of devotees just because of some inconveniences which I may get in the materialistic life outside and I may not get in the devotees community. You see. So we have to weigh which way, and if we leave the association of devotees, you can see here Maya is very, very strong. Mama Maya Durattaya, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Mama Maya Durattaya. Only way is somehow or other to surrender to the Supreme Lord. Mameva prapadyante Maya metam tarantite. So we'll stop with this Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.